I'd like to call this meeting to order of the RSU 25 School Board for May. If you all please join with me to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jim, would you please be kind enough to take the thanks?
Mr. Foster.
I am here.
Mr. Burgess.
Present.
Ms. Foster.
I'm here.
Mr. Frazier.
Here.
Mr. Nealon.
Here.
Mr. Wentworth.
Here.
Mr. Cog.
Here.
Ms. Saffron Dow.
Here.
You have all members present.
This is the time for public participation. If you are here and would like to publicly participate, please come up to a wonderful crystal podium. If you are not here and would like to publicly comment, you can do so through email at publiccomment@rsu25.org, or you can phone in for public comment at 307-8099. Jim, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
I do have a couple of adjustments. If you'd be so kind to add to L1A, Darren Ackerman, District Gifted and Talented Teacher. And if you would add to N1E, Facilities Committee, May 23rd, 2024, 4:30 at the Central Office.
This is the time for us to approve the minutes. We've got two sets of meeting minutes, one is April 9th and one is May 7th. I would look for a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes of both April 9th and May 7th, 2024.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those are in favor of approving the minutes? Alicia, you there? Oh, yeah, okay. I saw the finger. All right. That's a unanimous.
Yeah, got it.
Great. Next, we've got communications and correspondence.
You do have a couple in there. We have a nice little note from Camden National Bank saying congratulations, you received your final payment. We always like to have those final payments. So that's good. We also have a note in there from Drummond and Woodson. We participated in a class action lawsuit against the opioids litigation. And there was a very large settlement. I don't have the exact numbers. The bulk of the settlement went to the state to be used for programming to help with the opioid situation, but each district who participated did receive $2,500. So this is notification that we received a $2,500 check, which we have deposited and took in as unanticipated revenue. That'll go towards balance forward. Also in there was a media release from the Maine DOE. It was regarding the BAR program, building assets, reducing risk. And how Maine is supporting that at the DOE level. When we joined BAR many years ago, we were the second school in the country to adopt it. Maine now is up to almost 100 schools doing this. There's almost 270 nationwide doing the BAR program. This was part of a grant funded I-3 grant under the Obama administration for new programs for education, new processes of how to work with students. This was the only one that went through that whole process that was validated through independent evaluation of having a significant impact to improving student outcomes. I give this to you because we are mentioned in there, and we are quite. Mr. Tripp and I went to the national conference this year, and it's really interesting because it's just what we do. It's how we do business. It's part of our culture. And you go out there and people are like, oh, you're from Bucksport? Wow. Yeah. So, and it's pretty neat. So we were on the cusp of something that's worked out very well for schools across the country and working for our students. So it's exciting.
We've got superintendents.
I provided you a written report. Happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding that.
Why are we doing the back to school? This is 6-month increments. Why so soon?
Because we are going through an audit and we needed to make sure we had a full plan in front of the board. So we're just cleaning up to make sure that nothing's changed.
Because we just did it a couple months ago.
We did it in March,
Yeah.
but we didn't have record of it in the minutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And there was very specific language that it talked about that we needed to keep out and have on the, it has to have it on the date itself, on the plan, so it's just.
Okay.
Nothing changes for
Yeah,
It's
us.
more for me, for the state purpose,
Okay.
that I needed.
Okay,
it clean.
thank you.
And Katie told me to do it.
Okay, well then, we'll do it.
Just started with that.
Katie said so.
I'd like to have an illusion of doing something for it, but. All right,
We've got the board chairs report. I have been out going to graduations and I do not have a report yet, so I apologize for that. This time around, we can move to committee reports. Curriculum.
Okay, we met, and we talked about the science curriculum, the middle and high school collaboration group got together and they finalized that. The next gen science sources that Maine adapted into law are what we incorporated in this, and as part of it, they're gonna be using a program called K5 Mystery Science, is that what it said? Yeah. And it's like a very interactive, interesting program, so it kind of really, is experiential almost. And so, I think you're probably gonna see that tonight, is that on the agenda? Yeah. We had an attendance and truancy update from Jim, and what I took from that was Jewett is outpacing the rest of the schools, so other schools might wanna try something, I don't know, it's like a little competition, I guess.
well, I would encourage a healthy competition. So,
Yeah.
But Jewett would be in the gold medal position, but we're not at the finish line yet.
Wow, yep, nope, not at the finish line, there's still time. And then we had some district updates from Jim. We had the Commissioner of Education who was gonna be coming the very next day, and I did see the commissioner from a distance when I was walking the trail. And was invited over, but didn't, was in my workout outfit, so I didn't have to go over, but that was it.
Any questions for Kurt? Finance committee next. Just before this meeting, we discussed food service, which is in a very healthy position at the end of the year. We also discussed the elder food program, which had a positive month, very small positive, positive nonetheless. And we also discussed the regular budget to actual, and in that budget, we are doing quite well as well. So there's no real items of concern I need to bring to your attention. Policy committee did not meet. Facilities and grounds.
Yes, I failed to come across with the report. Sorry about that. So Jim said he'd save me.
Yeah, and there is a report in your packet. Anthony provided a written report of the packet. So I happen to answer any questions you may have regarding that.
And then last, we've got HCPs.
Hey, I have something to report. In Skills USA, the Nationals, there are 4 students from Bucksport High School that are gonna be going to the Nationals. I wish I could tell you who they are, but I can't remember. I remember 2, Will Highland and Mercedes Tangatua, and I know those 2, but I don't know the other 2 so much.
Well, Mackenzie.
The new program for firefighters hopefully will start in fall of 2025. It's a 2-year program. Year 1 will be firefighting 1 and firefighting 2. Year 2 will be EMT training. And to outfit each student with proper equipment for firefighting is $6,000 first. It's expensive, but we want to protect it. Because HCTC is part of the Ellsworth school system, the revolving renovation fund had to be approved by the Ellsworth City Council, and it was approved. Work must be finished by September of 25, and it'll be bringing up to ADA compliance and fire suppression. So it won't be doing anything of improving the size or adding extra space, because we're not in compliance with ADA or the new sprinkler system. Enrollment is presently set at 295. That will definitely change like anything. And out of that, about 58 are from Bucksport High School. So we're well attended down there, it's about 20%. And Our next meeting won't be until September because we don't meet over the summer, so there'll be no report for June, July, or August. Is there any questions? I'll try to answer them.
So there isn't. Thank you. We've got no old business. Under new business, we've got some resignations and retirements.
Under teachers, Darren Ackerman, District GT teacher, support personnel, Evan Seekins, Special Ed Tech 1, Kim Hill, Special Ed Tech 1, Caleb Balsam, Food Service, and Bobby Bradford, Food Service.
I move that we accept the resignations as a block with regret.
Second?
A motion and a second. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Next, we've got some nominations.
We have some nominations, and this may be a little bit confusing because we have another agenda item, but just work with me, it'll come out the end. Okay, nominations for teacher Kendall Warden, 0.5 FTE Title I at BMS. Kendall is here. If you don't know Kendall, many of you do, but she's here. Support personnel, Mike Hall, to be promoted to BMS lead custodian. Jason Bushy, custodian. Jason is here. BMS, custodian MLS in district. And Keegan Welts, custodian BHS. I do want to point out that Jason is a resident of Bucksford, and he's excited to wear the right color purple now.
Oh, yeah. Camden.
Another purple one, so we'll go with that. And under co-curricular, we do have some volunteers for the spring. Casey Soper working with BHS JV softball, and Justin Young BMS baseball, and Lindsey Young BMS baseball. And then I have a whole slate of coaches, if you want to go with that. At the same time, I suggest maybe 2 motions, but it's up to you.
I think so. I'll make a motion that we accept the nominations as presented as a block.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you again. Congratulations.
Welcome, Casey. We're already welcome. So right now, she has 1.5 jobs, but that may change.
It's okay.
Okay, so
She's good though. She can handle it.
Jason,
Close enough, I know that.
boss is never wrong. Rule number 1. I got part-timers using this. So we do have the grid of coaches is your fall and winter coaches that we're moving forward for nomination. Why do they come out now? It's because a lot of these programs run summer programming. And in order to be prepared for the summer for the kiddos to get a program going, we want the coaches to know if they're going to be coaching in the future or not. And it's only fair to have someone, you don't want somebody running a summer program and going, oh, by the way, we're not gonna nominate and elect you. So this is why it comes up now. All of these coaches have been previously working with us and have been evaluated by the AD. And these are the recommendations that he brought before me. And I do support those. So
When do spring sports come on? When is that?
those will come up in the winter time.
And they have no summer program,
They have no summer
but
program.
they're still.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're just not gonna go through. Just go.
You just did it as well.
Well, I know, I mean.
If you like, I can
No,
go.
no, I want to make sure. Well, I move that we accept the fall and winter sports candidates as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting coaches? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Perfect.
Next, we've got discussion and possible action on elimination of and restructuring of positions for fiscal year 25.
As we move forward with the budget and the board adopted budget, unfortunately did include some reductions in force. As a part of that process, not only do you do that in the budget process, but we want to recognize that on the board minutes, so it's codified and captured in the minutes. So any position that was eliminated, we need to eliminate the contract and eliminate the position. So you got a 2-part of 1 motion. And then if you're going to reestablish the position like we will do with French, you reestablish the halftime position and the halftime contract. If that makes sense. So you have, four motions here. Actually, you're gonna have four, five, six, seven motions. That
Get ready, Scott.
I suggest you do these 2A, 2B, 2C, do them one at a time. Okay, so under 2A, we have a motion to eliminate one FTE elementary guidance counselor and to eliminate the associated contract.
I move that we eliminate one FTE elementary guidance counselor position and eliminate the associated contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Well, I'm
2B.
I'm doing wrong with it.
I can do it.
Okay, that's good.
So 2B, motion to eliminate one FTE high school French position and to eliminate the associated contract.
Well, I move that we motion to eliminate one FTE high school French position to eliminate the associated contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
2C, motion to establish a 0.5 FTE high school French position and to issue a contract for the 0.5 FTE French instructor.
I move that we establish a 0.5 FTE high school French position and issue a contract for a 0.5 FTE French instructor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you again. Our next motion.
2D, motion to eliminate one FTE special education teaching position.
I move that we eliminate one FTE special education teaching position.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you
And
again.
the reason is there is no contract associated with that because nobody held the position. Okay. 2E, motion to eliminate one FTE elementary teaching position.
I move that we eliminate one FTE elementary teaching position.
Second.
I have a question before we go to vote on this one. Is that part of the halftime principal position or is
No,
that
sir.
totally different?
Totally different.
Okay,
No, this had to do with the kindergarten position. We reduced that by,
that was that
Right.
one.
right,
Okay,
and that's out where the person is leaving, there's no associated.
okay, great, thank you.
Great question.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you again. Next, we've got motion to eliminate,
Yeah, 2F.
You're better at this.
2F, motion to eliminate one FTE computer science and technology integrator position.
I move that we eliminate one FTE computer science and technology integrator position.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Scott, Keith, to your point about the position, that's a stipended position that we're doing away from. And so where there's not a contract, just a work agreement, and it's year to year, we don't need to do anything.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have review and possible adoption of the K-12 science curriculum.
As you heard Abby speak, the science curriculum has been reviewed and updated. Paul presented that to the curriculum steering committee. That left that committee with a positive endorsement to come forward here for consideration for adoption. And Christina can tell you everything you need to know about it and that's if she needs.
Yeah, if you have questions, so in your packet or in your folder, I just gave you I didn't give you 60 pages. I gave you one page that's just the notable science curriculum updates or changes, so that you would have that information and you didn't have to dig through the entire document for that. But just, basically what we will be using is obviously the state of Maine has signed into law the next gen science standard, which we've been working from anyway. We just did not have an updated board-approved K-12 document that outlines that continuum from kindergarten all the way to all of the high school classes. So now we will have that if you approve this tonight. We do plan on using the same resources at the 6th through 12th grade level that we have been using. We are part of the University of Maine RISE Center's Physical Science Partnership. And so this has been in the budget for the past several years that they provide us with hands-on kits and experiments and textbooks and materials that we use And when we are done with a unit, we exchange that for the next unit and we give it back and they replenish it for the next year. That's been working pretty well for us at those grade levels. And so when I met with the science teachers, we felt like that was still aligned to the next gen science standards and the curriculum. So we did not make any changes there at this time. We did change our science and engineering practices so that they're rolling through the K-12 span. And then the most notable change in material that we would be using is at the K-5 level. And so we will be using, with your approval, the Mystery Science Program K-5, which is a very exciting and phenomena-based, engaging, hands-on science material for students. There are videos that come with all of these, and then kits similar to the kits that the middle and high school get for hands-on activities for students. And, you know, there are things like, how does the weather guy know when it's going to storm? It's all based on questions, scientific questions, and then kids get to research that, and they're all aligned to the next gen science standards. So kids love it. Teachers at that level really love it because elementary teachers teach everything, and it's a lot of work. And with this particular program, everything is aligned and right there for you. So I'm pretty excited about bringing that to our K-5. The reason why we included fifth grade is because in the standards, fifth grade is always clumped together with third and fourth grade, and it made sense to have continuity across the K-5 stand for our programming and our standards.
Quick question. When we had discussions around the math curriculum, I know a big kind of hurdle that you had to jump over was the curriculum in its original iteration didn't really address necessarily what they might need to know at given intervals. And as a result, had started off with presenting fairly badly on some assessments. I imagine you must have informed this process with some of that additional experience to ensure that material is covered when it needs to be.
Yes, and I think I'm glad you brought that up because we do take a state required science assessment in grades 5, 8, and juniors, so third year of high school. And so what this will do is we're really not switching our emphasis, but putting more of an emphasis on science at the third, fourth, and fifth grade level, which will hopefully help because our students, you know, we focused a lot for whatever reason, it's important to ELA and math at the elementary level. However, it's still important to make sure that we are covering the sciences as well. And so that putting that focus back on that particular content area should help our fifth grade students and the content we're covering.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hopefully that answers your question.
I got a question on the high school level courses. It just says students must meet science graduation standards through both biology and physical science. Are the higher level science courses still going to be offered, the anatomies? And
Yeah. Yep, so in our curriculum document, that's the entire big document that nobody really wants to read through. If you click on the crosswalk section, you'll be able to see all of the regular science classes and our higher level science classes and what standards they hit across the years. Yep, actually, we had great representation from the high school science department on this committee. They did a lot of work on this committee to make sure that everything is covered and captured in that document. We also spend a lot of time with middle school science teachers, which was great. I find that that's probably my favorite part of this process that I'm doing is getting those cross grades together and cross schools together to have those discussions.
Right.
They did a lot of work on that. So kudos to the science teachers.
Any other questions? Okay, then I would look for motion.
I move that we adopt the K-12 science curriculum as presented to the curriculum committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have updated returns to.
As mentioned earlier, Ms. Gooley directed me to clarify and make sure we had the proper verbiage in our return to school plan and to make sure it was represented in minutes of the board meeting. There's no substantive change at all from what was presented in the talk in the fall. But I did correct the things that needed to be corrected. And basically we are operating 100% and we're following the current CDC guidelines. And I did put the link in that. So when it appears, people can just click on it.
Any further questions? And I would look for motion.
I move that we accept the return to school plan as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Next, with, no, with one, no.
7-1.
Seven.
That's what I have. Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Right down here, then.
With one, no.
Yeah.
All right,
I thought I had it, and then you asked.
next we've got administrative reports.
Will someone stand up?
I usually ask.
We're waiting, yeah,
You got me first.
direction.
I've been out for the first time in a long time. I don't know what to do. So, all right, we have had Josh.
So yeah, my report that I got in there late last night, so you may not have read it, so just to recap it real quickly, basically, we're just in full-fledged sprint to the finish line graduation mode right now. So master schedule is all done, which is really nice. We have it done well ahead of time. So students will hopefully have them all printed off or ready to, they can check them before they leave the summer, which is a really nice advantage to have. One big highlight of my report, for the first time, we had a group of students attend the Windstorm Challenge at the University of Maine that was held at the Advanced Structures and Composite Center. So it's the first time we'd ever done this. We really didn't know what to expect, but basically students had to create and engineer a base that would support a windmill structure that was provided to them at the testing center. If you've ever been to ASCC, it's a world-class testing facility. They do some amazing things. They do the bridge and the backpacks there. They do the big wind blades there. You can just go take a tour of that center. It will be well worth your time. So we didn't know what to expect. We just like, we'll build something, and they designed it and they did a bunch of trial and error. There were 3 students from our robotics team, so they are pretty good at design and CADing, and they're not unfamiliar with the process. Let's just say that. So we got out there's about 60 teams, 60 different high schools from across the states. We tested very first thing in the morning. I was up there. It's one of the most boring tests you'll ever see in your life, because the whole idea is you don't want it to do anything. You just want it to sit there and float and not move back and forth as the waves hit this thing, and just have the propeller turn. So the fact that it was boring and it didn't do a whole lot, like I was one of the things to see, like rocking around, like at the robotics event, you just things crash into each other. That's great. This was boring, and because ours didn't move at all, it scored a perfect score on the testing of the actual windmill. So they were one of 2 teams to receive a perfect score. They had to go then move in front of a panel of engineers that asked them questions about their design. So they answered those questions, and then they had to go into another panel of engineers and do a presentation, a slideshow presentation on their process. So that took, of course, over the whole day. So they were there testing at 8:30, and then at 3:30, we found out that they finished in first place.
Nice.
Out of the 60 teams. So again, that's fantastic. What's even better for those 3 students, and they did mention this in the interview process with the engineers. I don't want to say that it helped them out, but I don't think it hurt. They asked what they were doing next year, and all 3 of them said they were attending the engineering programs at the University of Maine. So I certainly think that was helpful that they brought that up. It was well played. But so the 3 students were Braden Gray, Rance LaPlante, and Evan Donnell. And so they all 3 of them individually won $20,000 paid work studies at ASCC. So it really was one of those things like, hey, this will be fun. We've never done it. Let's see how we do. To having just, again, when I talked to the team that finished in second place, and I have a good friend that works in that school district, so I may have brought this up to him 2 or 3 times already in the last couple weeks, was Gorham High School. So we're talking about big school districts with big resources, and they had a very good product, obviously, as well. They received a perfect score in their testing, and we just happened to have them. But I think you see that's a direct offshoot of the time and money that we've invested in our robotics program and our engineering program. It certainly is separating us from other schools across the state.
It's a pretty good day's pay right there.
That is, yeah.
Did they know the project they were gonna tackle, what they were gonna?
Yes, so they give them, again, the design, and every year it's pretty much the same thing that they have to design. The same for the windmill, and the windmill that they're provided, so they get the pole with the actual blades, there's a sensor on top of it, so it actually measures how much it rocks when it gets put in the big, just think of it as like a big wave pool. So the wind picks up and it generates waves, and it really just has to ride the wave, have the propeller spin, but the less it rocks this way. So they had a system where they had, a lot of them just had one buoy with a pole, and they tried to make it bigger, and they work on the weight distribution.
Right.
They created a 3 buoy system, had a triangular base. And they did a bunch of, they actually went to Toddy Pond and tested it out. I actually took a van over there and said, oh, we need to remove some weight from the top. And again, the advantage of them having used Onshape and a CAD program, and a routing table that you can, oh, that doesn't work, let's try this again. And, they don't have to go to the van, so like some of the other places do. So again, it was just kind of a cool thing to see that we have really progressed to a point where it's not just a niche, it's not just a robotics that we have learned to do, that they can actually take those skills and extrapolate to other situations.
How they doing the question and answer?
So I got to see that part, they did really well. And I actually got to see their presentation the day before, 2 days before, I went to their classroom. And if you notice, they're fantastic, they're incredibly intelligent, very, very well-spoken, what they want to be. But presenting, they would like some of the typical engineers that you would think of, like, they'd rather not be talking in front of people, rather be talking to each other about what the product was. So I think that was as powerful as anything, and simple things like eye contact, making sure that you're clearly explaining the process. And to me, that was the most interesting part is, you can talk about your design and what you did and why it works, and that's cool. But I think to me, when they were asked specific questions about, so why did you take the weight out of the top of it? Why did you redesign the couplings that they had they used 2 soda bottles to represent the buoys that they connected together. One's upside down, one top of each other, and they really talked about how they had to design mechanisms of water wouldn't leak into them where they were connected. And their thought process on the trial and error of how that worked and how it didn't work, and how they troubleshooted that, to me was, the $20,000 is pretty cool for each one of them. I mean, that probably is the coolest part, but to me, them be able to clearly talk about their trial and error process, and not just like, we threw some sand in there, that didn't work, so we took some sand out.
Did they scored on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the perfect score that Forum had, that was a wash. And then you get scored just on the interview process with the engineers, and then you get scored on the presentation. So.
And even beyond that $20,000, I don't know if anybody else is familiar with this, but the ASCC's Volturnus project, which has been going on for about 15 years now, is the cutting edge of offshore wind technology. And those students who are going to be doing that work study in that lab, when they graduate with their engineering degrees, they'll be some of the most in demand in the offshore wind industry. They'll be sought out by the biggest companies.
So we will next year, we will have 4 students that are working in the ASCC, Center in the West End program.
So there were 3 from robotics with a robotics experience.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who got the.
Yeah, and all 3 of them they're in different branches of engineering. Evan's actually going into chemical engineering, so a little bit outside, but a lot of crossover in terms of like materials, and environmental impact of materials. But so what Karen is saying, this is going to give them, whether they pursue that industry or not, what they will learn from working in a world-class facility, all from a project that they put together in physics class at Foxborough High School. Is pretty cool. Yeah. And Mrs. Hunter, I should give a lot of credit. One, just to kind of take this on, not really knowing a whole lot about it, but pushing them and making sure that they were prepared to be successful. It was a good day. Other than that, we're just trying to get 82 kids across the stage. For 3 weeks from now. So, life is good.
How's, are all 82 getting across, or how are you looking for graduation percentage wise?
We'll be on track to where we are pretty much everywhere. We'll be in the 90 to 93%. Hopefully a little bit higher than that. what you have to remember is that our graduation percentage is a four-year cohort percentage, so there are students, that came to us within that four-year span, right? So maybe not this year. They come to us as a sophomore, they spend 2 weeks with us, and then they go away. We get counted, there are dropouts.
Oh, that hits them.
Really?
Yes, so,
Now, does that count even if they graduate from a different district?
so if they graduate, that's fine. But if they come to us and they have no credits as a sophomore.
But it hits everybody the same way, like if same thing if they go to Brewer and, yeah.
Yeah, but when you look at, and we've been, our mobility rate has decreased over the last few years. Last several years, which is a really big predictor to graduation rates, because if you have a high mobility rate, there's a lot of ins and outs, which unfortunately do not always help your graduation rate. But, so we have our official graduation rate, which we will find out, August usually is about whether we get it. I can safely say that's probably gonna be somewhere between 90-92%. That's where we have been for the last 7 years on average. The graduation rate that I pay attention to, the ones that we have had for the most part for 4 years that I feel like we are responsible for, will be in the 95 to 96% range. We have a couple of students that have some senioritis that has kind of kicked in, and that's pretty typical, and they get some encouraging words from me and meetings with parents, get your community service hours in. So there's a stretch, and what we need to remember is that you can actually march and not have a diploma. So some of those folders, they have some work that they will have to do during the summer. If they have a plan, then we allow them to march. And then they will actually receive their diploma once they've completed that plan. But no, we have 2 students in particular that I feel fairly confident that they're gonna make it across, but they needed 9 credits coming into this year, which is a big call. So they've done a lot of work to get from where they are to where they are now, where they were to where they are now. So I will send out to all of you the exact graduation plan for outside with the indoor contingency. I kind of outlined it a little bit in my report, but if you guys can let me know if you do plan on attending graduation, I'll make sure we reserve seats in the staff section. As we always do. So as long as weather holds up, we will be outside 5 o'clock. Usually that Wednesday, we make the determination looking at the weather, if we have to move it inside. Still at 5 o'clock. But yes, it will be on June 7th. Class night will be on June 5th.
How is our online class? Are there any people that are graduating that we weren't expecting them to, or not graduating that we were expecting them to?
Yeah, so we have, I may be a little off on this number, I know there's 4 that we fully anticipate to graduate. And not saying that they wouldn't have graduated without the remote pathway.
Right, that's speculation and
Right.
stuff to know.
But certainly, we're able to complete, and 2 of those have been in it since its inception. So the last 2 years, they have spent there and have received their credits. We have one other one that has some work to do. But that student's able to get the work done, which I think is still very possible. They will graduate. And there's one that came to us with some credit deficiencies this year. So like one of those ones that very easily could have been a dropout on us, but I think it will be a success story because of the pathway. So yeah, in general, again, I think it's just like any alternative ed pathway. You have to be really careful when you look at those numbers in terms of success. They're not all going to get the average 6.5 credits that we would think of our students here in the more traditional sense. But they're getting right now somewhere between 4.5 and 5.5 credits, which is really good for an alternative ed pathway. And we're not paying $20,000 a student for that.
Right.
4.5 to 5.5. So I think it's, again, we have to be really careful when we look at those numbers. Because it's not the straight success numbers that you're going to see from our traditional pathways. But it's an easy line to talk about how that is saving us money, because it costs a lot of money for us to have students recover credits. That isn't it. If they have to retake classes, they're repeating years in high school, and that's just resources that we spend, and it costs us money. So and when they're not repeating classes, It's a cost savings.
Plus we want them to be successful, that's,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
Any further questions for Joe? Okay. Next, we got Aaron.
Good evening, everyone. You have a copy of my report, kind of like Dr. Tripp. We are in the finish line here, getting to the finish line with all the craziness at the end of the year. So we've got banquets and recognition for A3 promotion and class trips and all that fun stuff. So lots of good and exciting things happening at the end of the year. Would like to highlight really quickly our family night. That was a huge success. I don't know how many people we had there, but we had
Over 200.
over 200. Wow. So I was conservative in my estimates there, but yeah, it was over 200. So, and it was just a really great evening celebrating, all the great things that we've done there this year and in years past. We did have a visit from the Department of Education, and the Rev Grant and the Rev team. They came on site to kind of see our outdoor classroom and they were just, blown away and just really impressed with all that's going on out there. So, that was really a great night. Also want to highlight our PBIS, ongoing PBIS initiative, that is coming to a conclusion in year one. Remember, this is a 3 to 5 year implementation. So we've made a lot of progress in year one. We've had classroom visits where our coaches are going in and monitoring, positive acknowledgements, where we've seen growth in teachers being more positive with our students, which is fantastic. Most recently, at our staff meeting, we focused on looking at family implementation and family integration as a goal of next year. How can we get more community members involved in our schools? And that's really, Mrs. Dickey, when she kind of takes over next year, you'll see that as being really a huge focus of us moving forward next year, and really looking at ways we can get the community and parents in our building more and helping out, supporting what we're doing. So we've also got a lot of validation through the PBIS surveys that we sent out. We sent out a survey at the beginning of the year. We scored really high there. That was in October, but we've surpassed that in the spring. So we've seen a lot of growth there, which again, validates all that we're doing and creating that positive culture and climate, which again, as a staff was really a goal of ours. So again, happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for Aaron? Thank you. Awesome. Next, we've got Darcy.
Good evening, everybody. Miles Lane is also wrapping up the year. The kids are very antsy right now. We are wrapping up a lot of our end of the year program. NOEAs are almost completed. We're working on makeups this week. Our after school literacy and math programs finished up a couple weeks ago. And we've been busy meeting with our summer school planning team. So we have a great program planned for this summer. And that will also be connected to the YMCA as well. Some of the highlights. We had our grandparent breakfast and we had about 300 grandparents that showed up through our doors. It was amazing. Lots of great feedback. We had grandparents who approached us and said, I hope you do this again next year. And some of them who remembered from years past. So that was successful. Our K through 4 Title I Family Night was a main theme night. We were excited to have Linda Greenlaw there talking about lobstering. That was a huge hit. We had the UMaine team there with a touch tank with some of the deep sea creatures from the Maine Ocean. And there were lines of kids around the cafeteria to see those. And Mrs. McKnight was playing a guitar as well. Buckbeats Band ended the year with a beautiful concert with peace themed music, and Pender Macon, our education commissioner, actually visited. I know that Jim mentioned that in his report as well, and she is very down to earth. She brought her ukulele and played with the kids and talked to the kids and had a great time. So we've had some exciting events happen, and right now our staff is taking advantage of Acadia National Park education programs. So they've been out and about, and Penobscot Marine Museum, despite the traffic and the horrible road work over there, we managed to get the buses over. I called the principal at the high school, who's a friend of mine, and he's like, you can park your buses on our property anytime. So all of our wings are taking advantage of that, and the feedback from their program has been amazing. So they've had some great programming through the museums. Are there any questions?
Thank you. So we got Nicole?
It is Tuesday, right? Only Tuesday. Just checking. Everybody's saying how busy they are. I feel like we're cramming. I feel like I've already lived the week already into 2 days, so. Just, reiterate spring assessments. We pushed ours back as late as possible so we could get a lot of review for little guys. So we'll be finishing those up this week, with PBIS. We do have matrices with all the expectations around the building. Our outside of district cohort coach, Ann Jordan, visited on May 8th. She was very impressed to even talk to little 5 and 6 year olds, and they were able to kind of tell her what some of the expectations are and how they could earn golden tickets. So that was encouraging. We're having our kindergarten celebration on the 31st. I rescheduled it so that I could offer an invitation to our outgoing and incoming superintendent, because I felt that not only should they be shaking the hands of the kids that are exiting, they should see the next crop that are coming in kindergarten. So we're going to be doing that. We're providing 2 sessions so that we could get all of the parents in to the small Jewett building. So that should hopefully work out well. It worked out well last year. So I have high hopes for that. I also wanted to reiterate, which isn't in my report, I'm very, very, very excited about the science curriculum, mystery science. As an educator who's used mystery science, it really does get the kids engaged. I really want to push to have kindergarten be more experiential and hands-on learning. And I think that could be the tool to drive that. They also, the program is also, it also provides resources for cross-curricular things, that like little booklets that you can get. I've already talked to Christina about trying to get more nonfiction in the hands of kindergartners, because as a 3-4 teacher for most of my career, I know that kids came to that age level and they couldn't read nonfiction because they weren't exposed to it as much as they could have been. So I really am pushing for that. So I think the science curriculum could really help to drive that, and also get back to some like thematic units and those kind of fun things that the K-2 span wants to do. I've been to that center and I've seen that big wave pool, and I would love to take kindergartners there just so they can see what their future could be. So really excited about that. Some partnerships with the community. We've had a couple field trips. They've gone to the Alamo, to the planetarium. We've done book buddies with Miles Lane. We'll be doing that again next week. We're working on pre-K and kindergarten screenings, and really excited talking about keeping with that science theme. Had an offer from John Boynton at the high school to bring the robotics team to Jewett. It's helpful, his daughter's in kindergarten. But he's like, what would you think of bringing and doing the robotics demonstration? I'm like, yeah, sign us up. So they're doing that tomorrow, where they're gonna have the battle bot. And I haven't seen these myself yet, so I'm pretty excited about seeing that. So really making that connection to science and where the kids can actually go when they get here, you know, the things they can do when they get into high school here. So I'm really excited about that. We had our last PBIS assembly talking about the character value of forgiveness. We have almost achieved 7,000 golden tickets. That's just for kindergarten earning that. So there's 70 kindergartners. So they've each earned about an average of 100 golden tickets for the entire year. Like to get that up a little bit more next year, but I think that's pretty good for a class size of 70. We had some little community helpers out helping Kenny White in the front yard because there are limbs everywhere and they picked those all up and then they even went out onto the playground to start cleaning that up for our big field day that we are separating from Miles Lane this year, just because it was a little overwhelming last year. Of course, it was also 90 degrees, right? We are going to have a separate field day at Jewett, but we're looking forward to that. And the K team is already planning it. I don't even have to tell them, they're doing everything. I'm like, thank you, I have enough on my plate. So, any questions?
Is there anything you guys need for the field day?
I'll ask Kaylee Chafee. She's been in charge of that, but I think we're pretty set, but, we are actually purchasing a snow cone machine, for Jewett that we will share, obviously, when we need to, but the kids they don't know about it yet, so. But yes, I'll let her know you asked.
Oh. Next, I have Christine.
We've already heard all the amazing stuff happening in this district from our wonderful principal team. So I won't go on and on about those things, but in my report, I did highlight the family night. I get the benefit of going to all of them, which is another reason why I love my job. So I got to see the crowds at both the Miles Lane, the K4 and the middle school. So thank you to all the work that principals and teachers put into that. Something that's not in my report, but when Mr. Ward was up here talking, I just want to highlight really quickly, is he was talking about PBIS and the implementation of PBIS at the middle school. And this is happening across K-8, but I think it's really important to point out, I'm collecting data for the comprehensive needs assessment, which is what I have to do every spring as part of my job, and I'm developing the new application for our grants for next year. And I just want you guys to know that the suspension rate at BMS has drastically dropped. And some of that, I think, is attributed to PBIS and the work that Mr. Ward is doing with culture and climate. So I wanted you to know that 21% is 7%. So that's not in my report, but it's important for you to know. And kudos to the middle school staff for working hard on that. So anyway, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about my report, but I wanted to highlight. Oh, next Thursday night is the academic awards banquet. If you're coming, please let us know.
So I think I already let her know.
I did.
I want to sit next to Abby.
I haven't found a babysitter
I want to sit next to Abby.
Any questions?
You gotta send my husband.
Do you want to publicly rant about why the social studies curriculum didn't get done this year?
really.
Okay. I just wanted to give you the platform to,
Okay.
address that.
So the DOE, so the social studies standards were supposed to be updated and revised this year, and we thought that they were just gonna keep what they had, and they've decided to mess with it a little bit. And so they got kicked out of the ed committee, and they're back up for review. And so we are on hold for social studies right now.
Because they were updated in 2020 before that, and nobody had really done much because of COVID, right?
Right.
So.
And now we're going to,
In 2024, and they still haven't gotten their act together, but, okay.
here we are.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Maybe by the end of summer. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we've got Tara.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Special education department has been really very busy. My report is short and sweet. We have our fingers in the pie of all of the exciting things that are happening across all of the schools. I do want to we're also starting to plan for next school year, and we're starting to have our meetings with CDS, with our incoming kindergartners, our 4-year-olds coming in with services. So we've started that process. That's fun. We wrapped up our swimming program with the YMCA, and I've already put in a plug for us to resume that for next school year. So it's been a super successful and fun time. It's not in my report, but I did also want to mention May's graduation. Maddie Hanlon, who is a special education teacher, marched with her master's degree. And I think there were a number of educators that across our district. So I just want to give a May shout out to those graduates who are continually learning. And then lastly, we did 61 meetings in the month of May, 61 IEP meetings and 504 meetings. So we're hopping at the special ed office. And recently, last week, I participated, Jen Bowden and I participated in comprehensive trauma-informed training. So we are now trainers of trauma-informed practices and can train as needed our staff to support those neediest of our students. Any questions for me?
I guess not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's okay, Kathy.
Well, I have to say that there was so much going on, I embarrassingly left out graduation information, so that is not in my report, but I do have a written report. So I'll just quickly say that we have moved it to the Learning Center. It is June 21st at 5:30. If anybody's interested in coming, please just let me know. Part of that reason is because although we had a good diploma high set class this year, they've all moved on to wonderful, bigger and better things, and we're graduating our MAs only this year. I will say we just have one student that has done a phenomenal job. He went off to the National Guard, has come back, is off to Hessen, and he just emailed me last week that he has been due to his, he earned the Point of Excellence, and I wish I knew a little more about that, but in the Guard, and he has been invited to Army Ranger School. And that was one of his dreams, so he's really thrilled. Our other diploma graduates are doing just as wonderful things, but that's the one that was most recent. Any questions on my report? All right, thank you very much.
Jen? Box of books, problems.
What's the props? Just gonna do some improv.
No. This came with gifts, you know, you show up late, you're supposed to come.
That's right. Don't show up empty-handed.
So just a couple things I'll share with you. I think I may have mentioned last month, we were just about to wrap up. So the final character element of the 3-year series is done and has been released. And so those will be available now to be reused at the elementary schools every month going forward. But that project is done. The surveys have gone out for 12th graders, I think, are done. Staff is basically done with their annual surveys for us. And at a quick glance, we're really excited about the feedback that we're getting from the staff survey. And then we still have the 8th grade one that we'll be checking in with, preparing to get out. Well, I was thinking after their last activity. Also, final spending, hopefully tomorrow is the last day we spend any money. Hopefully it's gone by tomorrow, which is the goal, to use up all the Aspire funds. So we're getting really close on that. And lots of great things are happening, which I know you've heard all about, some of which were funded through the Aspire funds this year. And I just wanted to mention that in the June meeting, I will be at a JMG function, so I won't be here. So just thank you all for your support this year. And we have, one more year of exciting things that we have in the works, but I did want to give you all a little gift, and our latest swag, new Aspire mugs, and I have the most recent newsletter inside, and on the back, I printed off a copy of our overview of the last 4 years that was also in the budget mailer that went out. So if you didn't get to see it there, you'll have a copy on the back of your newsletter. Any questions?
I guess not. Thank you.
You could have them.
You want another one?
I already have one. Thank you.
So let me hold it up.
It is a nice mug. I never brought it to work. I've been using it at home.
Well, this time I asked them for the biggest print surface possible to get the logo really big, so they let us do a wrap.
And it's pretty. I like the color. It's a good one.
You ready? No, I got one.
Not that you can't have
Can't
more.
forget him.
Take a whole set.
Well, I'm good. I'm trying to.
Abby. Maybe I'll take this to work, because I don't have space at home. That's what I thought, and then I'm thinking.
And then the last one that we have is Jim Moore.
Think about Jen and all our fancy swag, you should start making like hard drive necklaces or something.
Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be great.
My report's in your drive. We have a lot going on. I gave you a sample of what our work list for the summer looks like. As I go into every January, I'm like, hey, this summer is the time we're gonna trim and identify what needs to be done, little fragments. And as you can see from our work list, we get into these larger projects and off we go again. So it's an ever revolving list, but we do put that together to try to keep up with what's going on during the summer, because I encourage my team to take time off, so we interrupt the school year as little as possible. So if you have any questions or comments, concerns for me, I'll field those.
That was overwhelming.
Everybody on the board.
I think it grew a little bit depending on when you saw us, but it's all positive, it's all stuff in the right
Oh,
direction.
yes, I have a big need for a tie clip.
I'll work on that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Next we got calendar and announcements.
Calendar, there is no scheduled meeting for curriculum or policy for the Aspire committee. You do have scheduled meetings for finance on June 18th, prior to the school board meeting of June 18th. And facilities will be meeting on Thursday, May 23rd, central office at 4:30. I know you probably didn't forget, but tomorrow is the district budget meeting. It's a little bit important.
It's not at 6.
It's not at
You'll be at
6,
another
it's at
meeting if you
7.
show up. I've done that 2 years in a row, I think. What kind of meeting was it? It's at 7. It was a bus meeting one year.
Nothing.
I don't remember what the other one was.
There's no meetings prior this year, but this one is at 7 PM. It's very important that we're there, and I'll encourage the administrators who live in district to be there. Your evaluations will be completed after that meeting. No pressure. And also we have the validation referendum coming up June 11th. And that's what we have for meetings.
Is Charlie Brindle gonna be doing the?
Mr. Grindle is willing to be the moderator again this year, yes. And I just talked to him again this afternoon to review some things.
I gotta get back in the lodge. I've always dreamed of being Dingus the Clown.
With that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn the meeting. Second.
We've got a motion in the section. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, everyone.